everybody to our Generation Green project launch or resource and next steps for Generation Green project. This is our first of our webinar series. So we'll be holding one webinar every Tuesday from 5 to 6, all about how to build and do and report your project. So we'll just get started right now.
I'm just going to start out with a quick land acknowledgement. So as a community, we have the responsibility to honor, care for, and respect all the creation gives us to provide us with life. This includes the land, water, air, fire, animals, plants, and our ancestors. The Anishinaabe people have utilized this land for millennia, and we would like to acknowledge their direct descendants, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land upon which we live, work, and conduct ourselves. We acknowledge our treaty relationship and responsibilities to both the land and these original peoples. We also recognize that this land is rich in pre-contact history and customs, which includes the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee since the European contact has and continues to become the home for Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. And it is in the spirit and intent of the dish with one spoon, wampum agreement, whereby we will collectively care for and respect the land, water, animals, and each other in the interests of peace and friendship, and for the benefit of not only ourselves, but for the future descendants. All right, so welcome to the call. My name is Riley. You just heard from Katie. We also have Georgia and Afreen with us as well. And I just want to make a really quick note. So we did hold a project launch before this, and this is the same information. So if you attended last week's project launch on Thursday, this will be all the same information, but you are totally welcome to stick around and ask questions if you have any questions, or if you just want to watch it again, you are more than welcome to stay. I just wanted to give that little disclaimer that you're not going to miss out on anything because it's the same information. Okay, so I'm going to get into the kind of schedule here, and I think that there's a poll up as well. So just take some time to answer those questions. But for the agenda-wise, I think we're just going to start off with kind of explaining the Halton Climate Collective and the Halton Environmental Network and kind of who we are. I'm going to go over kind of a recap of the Generation Green Conference. Then we're going to get into feed loop access. Oops, that was me. Feed loop access. And then we're going to get into kind of your project and your GHG and how you can track and measure that. We're going to get into, I think Shirley, one of our youth stakeholders, is going to hop on and tell you guys about her project last year or the year before and explain kind of how she did it and how it impacted her. To finish it off, we're kind of go over our next steps and our important dates, and then finish it off with a Q&A session for any of your questions that you may have. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by talking about the Halton Environmental Network. So the Halton Environmental Network was established in 2004 and is an incorporated nonprofit organization operating in the community of Halton. So that's Burlington, Milton, Halton Hills, and Oakville. So HEN strives to make the community of Halton region with educated citizens, engaged stakeholders, and best practice policies for climate change mitigation, adaptation, and environmental sustainability. You can also go to our website. If you just type in Halton Environmental Network, you will see us, and there's a ton of information on us there as well. These are just kind of some of the programs that HEN offers. So we have our Green Screens program, we have our Oakville Ready program, Halton Food, which is really big. I don't know if any of you heard of Halton Garden Week that happened back in February. That was amazing. We have our Green Sacred Spaces, and we also have the Halton Waste Mitigation, so kind of like cleanups and stuff. And then if you see in the left corner there, we have our Generation Green Initiative, which is what I will be getting into. But this is what you guys are a part of, and it's a great initiative, and we are so excited to have you. Now I'm going to kind of talk about the Halton Climate Collective. So basically, it's a group of organizations. If you see kind of to the right there, that are focused on collectively transforming the community of Halton into a low carbon, climate resilient community. And the mission of HTC, again, is to just kind of lead communities towards low carbon and climate resiliency. And a part of that is ensuring successful greenhouse gas mitigation strategies for the community of Halton. And you might ask, why is this important? Why are we doing these things? Well, there is climate change happening not only around the world, but also in our community right here in Halton. So it's getting warmer. Ontario is 1.5 degrees warmer than in 1948. It is also getting wetter, with a 12% increase in precipitation over the last 50 years. And with this increased precipitation and with the increase in temperature, we get wilder storm intensibility and variability. So what does this mean? It means health impacts. It means more invasive species and drought. It can also mean flooding and insurance losses and mismatched timing for ecological processes like migration. So like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the geese have definitely been a little bit off this year. I know I've noticed. So that's just one of the kind of effects that climate change has. So what's happening in Halton right now is that the Halton community is unique, as we have declared 6 climate emergencies, including each of the 4 municipalities in Halton region. So as I mentioned before, kind of Milton, Oakville, Burlington, and Halton Hills have all declared climate emergencies. And in addition, we have a student-led climate emergency declaration within the Halton District School Board, which is what you guys are a part of. And that's the first of its kind in Canada. So it's kind of a big deal. And now I'm going to get into Generation Green. So that is, again, what you guys are now all a part of, which is awesome. So I'm going to talk about kind of the conference and what we had. And now that you guys are, I'm assuming, in Feed Loop right now, after this meeting, you can go in and watch all of the sessions if you didn't get to attend the conference. And I'll just kind of go over what Gen Green is and the conference as well. So the event was designed by youth for youth, where students were given the tools and the resources and the inspiration to actively empower them to reduce Halton's carbon footprint. So we were joined by 55 youth stakeholders. We met with them for the past few months, and they were really the backbone of this conference. They helped organize it all. And then, yeah, our theme this year was climate justice. We had an international panel and 14 amazing workshops and a keynote speech. So yeah, as I just said, our theme was climate justice. It's definitely a really important topic. Climate change, as it says here, is inequitable and creates profound injustices across the planet and right here in our own country. I'm going to talk about our international panel. So exciting. Definitely go watch it if you haven't already. So we were joined by climate activists from around the world. We had Mary Nell. She is from the Philippines. We had Tina Oh, who is originally from Korea, and now I believe she lives in Edmonton. And then we were also joined by Ashnell Jeffers, who is from the Caribbean. Then we had an amazing inspirational keynote speech from Elizabeth Wathuti, who is a Kenyan environmental and climate activist. She's also the founder of the Generation, or see, it's funny, it's just like our name, Green Generation Initiative, which nurtures young people to love and be environmentally friendly and conscious at a young age. We also had some very wise closing remarks from Chief Stacy Laforme. It was definitely very heartfelt, and it was just overall just an amazing time. These are some of the workshops that we had. There was such a wide variety, but they all kind of tied it back to the theme of climate justice. I'm not going to read every single one, but they're just up on the screen, and they're also in Feed Loop for you to go watch and enjoy, and I highly suggest that you go watch them because they were amazing. Okay, so about the conference. If some of you aren't joining us through Feed Loop and you're joining us through just the regular Zoom webinar, I believe Georgia is going to put this link in the chat right now. It is just a Google form to kind of fill out to give you access to the conference, to give you access to FeedLoop so that you can go in and watch all of these amazing sessions and presentations and really understand and see what the conference was all about. I'm just going to keep this here for now, Georgia. I think you put it in the chat, which is great. And even if you want to keep listening, you can always open it and save the tab for later. It's very quick though. Again, this is just the same thing. If you're not on FeedLoop right now, this is kind of what it looks like. If you are, then we will be right in this big G right there. That's where we kind of are at the moment. And then you can see all the little boxes to the side, the introduction, land acknowledgement, the panel. You just click on those and you can watch them on your own time. So yeah, that is all for me. I'm going to pass it off to Katie and Afreen if she wants to jump in and talk about the 6-week project.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Riley. So a large portion of you are very curious to wonder how to get 20 community involvement hours. So this is through our greenhouse gas reductive project. So it is small actions with a large impact. So if we go to the next slide. So what we're looking for is in your home or your local community, you will use the tools and skills that we have provided to implement a program that would reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. So what we will be asking you to do is to track and measure your impact and then report back in spring with your results. Next slide. So the main things to know is that you have 6 weeks to do it. Now it's about 5.5. And the goal is to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, which we'll let you know how to do. The due date will be April 23rd, and we will be hosting a wrap-up event on May 12th. So this is after you completed your program. It's just a fun event for all students to come in and celebrate their success of completing it. And then once that's all been completed, you will get your 20 hours confirmation letter sent to you directly. Next slide. Thank you. So as we mentioned before, you will get your 20 hours and recognition from our teams, both HCC and HEN, as well as a potential to win prizes. So the prizes is after you complete your project, there will be a judging panel just to see if you meet certain requirements, and then you'll become eligible for the prizes to win. So these
Free might have just went on pause for a second. I'll wait till she pops back in. But hi, I'm Katie. If Afreen moves back in again, I'll just silence myself again. But yeah, these are topics that you can choose from. We've narrowed down the topics this year just to make it easier for you. These are also some of the biggest contributors to the greenhouse gases in our community. So it's transportation, energy in the home, waste, or you could try to do a mix of all those different topics. It's really up to you. There's lots of flexibility. We've given some examples here. For transportation, for example, you can bike or walk instead of drive. For energy or home, you can do an energy audit. You can use your appliances less. You could potentially try to use different appliances that are a little bit more eco-friendly. And then for waste, you can try reducing your food consumption. Maybe you're going to do some other type of reducing of other waste in your home. That's really up to you. Or you can try to hit all the different topics, but we'll definitely help you as you submit your project in helping you build that project that really sort of tailored to what your interests are and feasible within the time frame. Cool. And talking about the projects now, yeah, if we can have Shirley and our youth stakeholders who are available to talk about their projects, just raise their hand if you're an attendee, and we'll bring you up to the panelists so that you can speak to us about your project. So I just saw your hand. I think you came into, yes, awesome. So this is Shirley. She's one of our youth stakeholders, and she also completed a project last year. So Shirley, I invite you to turn on your microphone and talk about your project.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Shirley. I'm not sure, but I can't turn my camera on, so.
give me 1 second. I can do that for you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Shirley, and I'm so excited to share with you the project I did last year when I was in grade 10. So I participated in Generation Green last year, and I launched a project called the Pen Drive with my friend Isla. So we came up with this idea to collect used writing utensils in our school because it's probably the most common waste in schools. And we were inspired by the Sheridan Zero Waste program, where they had pen collection boxes set out around their campus. And the Generation Green conference last year was actually held on Sheridan's campus. So that's why we had the opportunity to tour around the campus and see the pen collection boxes. We were also inspired by the Staples recycling program, where you can bring all the used up pens and they're going to send them to TerraCycle for recycling. And I think TerraCycle can actually use these plastic to make everything from park benches to trash cans, which we thought was really cool. And we kind of had our project as an event for 2 weeks, and we set up tables in the atrium in our school for students to bring their pens. So our school eco-council was very supportive of our project, and many members volunteered to collect these pens during their lunchtime. Isla and I also went around our school to check all the marker boxes in classrooms and bring all the used up ones in for recycling. So before we did our project, we were worried about students' participation, and we actually held a raffle and we contacted eco-friendly companies for donations. So more pens the students can bring to school, the more likely they're going to win an amazing prize. We also advertised through announcements, posters, and of course, we only made one just to be more eco-friendly. And we also advertised on social media. Eventually, we collected over 4,000 writing utensils, and that's about 24,000 GHG emissions saved, and it was really amazing. So for our calculations, we measured the weight of all the writing utensils and calculated the greenhouse gas. So what we learned is that through our calculations, we found out that 5 kilometers of driving is equal to the GHG emissions of 200 pens going into the landfill. And this really inspired us to walk as much as we can. We were also really surprised that our project can make such a big impact. And obviously this year, it would be a bit hard to do something that's school-wide due to the COVID situation, but you can still do something with your friends or family. And I know last year I was a little bit stressed because I didn't know where to start. But then when I was doing the project and looking at all the other students that did projects, I realized that any small action counts, and this can be anything from just like biking to schools or eating less meat. And you'll be really surprised how small action can do a lot. So I think this project really gave me a sense of how much I can do in my school. And I think it's a great opportunity to either start your climate action or continue on your journey to fight climate change. And you're going to meet so many great people on the way, and just why not? I'm pretty sure you're here because you want to do something about climate change. And I think this is just a great way to start. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Shirley. I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your project and your learnings as well with us. And yeah, I'll speak a little bit about some other projects too. Just like Shirley mentioned, this year is going to be very different from how we did it before. So if you're joining us and you did a project last year, I invite you to think of something that you can do within your own home. You can still think, I think, just as big as Shirley and Isla did when they did their projects as well together. You can also think about how can we use our digital tools? How can we use maybe social media? You can do a campaign or a challenge. You can challenge your parents' friends. There's really a lot of different ways. So the ask for every single project was the same. It's to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, but what you decide to do with it is really up to you. And so we'll speak a little bit more about the project right now. Cool. Yeah, so these are every single step that you might need to take while you're thinking or building your project. First of all, you want to identify your topic. So are you going to do something with transportation? Are you going to do something more about waste or food waste or looking into pens, just like Shirley did? Or is there a specific item you think you use a lot in your home, like a blender, and maybe you're going to try not using that for 6 weeks or something like that? So you want to identify what your topic is. You want to brainstorm ways that you can reduce, or what the action could be to reduce your emissions. Once you've thought about it, you've identified what topic you want to choose, you thought about different ways that you can apply it, you choose your activity, which kind of, you start to implement what you want to do. Part of that is you submit your idea to us, your project proposal, and we'll share the link for that in the chat as well. I think some of you have been sharing it over email. It's also available on our website, and we'll make sure to put it up on Feedloop. If you're joining us from Feedloop, we're going to try to put it there for you as well, so it's very easy for you to find. Then you want to start doing your project. So the minute you submit your project, we invite you to start doing your project. It is a tighter time frame than what we had before, so definitely once you start getting into it, you'll start learning, and sometimes your idea might change as well. So you might start off with big intentions, which we love, and then as you start doing things, you learn and you realize that you might have to shift your idea a little bit, and that's okay too. We're going to go through that during these weekly webinars as well. So you start implementing, maybe you bring your siblings or your family or your friends involved, being COVID safe and keeping those regulations. I'm not going outside your bubble, but just thinking about all those things as you build your idea and you start to put it out. And then you calculate your GHG. So that's the meat of our projects. We really want to know if you're starting off, say, at a certain level of GHG production, that's what you're doing in your daily life, what is going to be the difference with this one individual action? It could be small or it could be big. And then you want to submit your project to us. So this is the entire project, what it all looks like. From start to finish, with your proposal, what you did, what the calculations are, how it went for you. We want to know all that stuff. You submit it to us on April 23rd. And then we celebrate. Then we celebrate the fact that everybody's taken this action. We've all reduced together a certain number of GHG. And then there's also potential to win prizes and to get recognized as well. We'll have some judges from the HDSB, from our partners at Dillon Consulting, as well as from our own organization as well, to read and look through all of your different projects and to recognize how great they are. Cool, so what are we doing right now? We're trying to identify our topic, we're brainstorming, and we're choosing our activity. So if you're here, you might already have an idea of what you want to do, or maybe you're still thinking about what type of ideas are available to you. I invite you to go onto our website at climatecollective.ca/success stories. You can see a lot of different other projects there from previous years. You might have a friend or somebody you know who did a project, or if you did a project, that you can use yourself as inspiration as well. You can use Shirley as inspiration. So you can definitely pull from all those different ideas. You can do some research as well. And just, again, brainstorm, sort of reflect on your own life and what sort of action you can do that's not going to be too taxing for you, as well as not unsafe for you as well. So we'll think about that too. Cool. And of course, we are here for you every single step of the way. So right now we're going to go through, so as a resource, we are here as a resource for you, Riley, Afreen, Georgia, and I. We are going to help you through the process. We'll be answering your questions. All of these spring webinars are here. You can say next week, we're going to go through a little bit more about brainstorming, planning, and actually getting your project started. So if you have submitted a project idea already, then you might want to come into that one just so you can feel out, you can get a sense of how you're starting out. March 26th is when the actual last date to submit your project is. So if you're intending to get those 20 community involvement hours, or you want to do your project, you must submit your project by March 26th, which is 2 weeks from now. So definitely you can find how to submit the actual form on our website as well. And then we'll also share it with you in an email over social media too. So you can be able to find it. We'll make sure it's very accessible to you. Then we'll be following through with our webinars. We'll making sure how do you keep engaged or implement your project, how are you going, kind of sort of troubleshooting your project. We'll go really in depth about how to calculate and report. As well, we have great initiatives coming up during spring break, where we'll just do more daily fun activities, where we can talk again about the inspiration behind all the stuff that we do. We'll hear more. If you like the conference, if you attended the conference, it'll be very similar to that. If you didn't attend the conference, then you're in luck. You get to go to lots of great events again. And then on April 23rd is the final day, is the final time to submit your project. So the week or a couple days before final submission, we're going to go through what does that look like. What is the final submission report? What parts do we want you to include in there? It's all going to be accessible to you prior to the 20th, so you'll have lots of chances to think about how the actual report's going to come together. But that's when you submit your report there. Then afterwards, we're going to talk about how do you communicate your report, because if you're one of those lucky few that had a great project that was recognized by our judges, we're going to invite you to come back on the 12th and to present it to everybody. We're all going to gather together virtually, just like this. It's going to be a fun event, again, just to celebrate all the work that we've done and go over actually how much GHG, not only individually, but as a collective whole. Say we have like 300 or 200 or even just everybody in this call submitted a project, how well can we do as a group? And I think last year, and if you can come in, I think it was about 20 or so tons of GHG that we reduced or something like that. So can we do better this year? Maybe we can. Let's give it a go. Cool. So what are we really asking of you? Of course, we're asking you, if you're here, to be part of our project, to come on this journey with us, to fill out that project proposal form, which is available on our website, also in the chat. To try to attend at least 2 of these spring webinars. They're not mandatory, but we're having them every single week in order to support you. They're designed to follow along with every stage of the project. So we strongly advise that you at least come to 2 of them. That way you can make sure that you're on track. To join us in the spring break, there's going to be fun events, film screenings, trivia nights, other events, other talks with similar to the way we did the conference. Potentially there could be room for more international speakers. So there'll be great events happening there during Earth Month. So it'll be perfect. Of course, we ask that you don't give up and you keep your action going. It's a 6 weeks. It'll happen really quick, but it's very easy to get overwhelmed by everything that's going on. We understand. That's why we're here to support you. And if you're ever feeling like you need extra support, feel free to shoot us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So we know that things can be hard. It can be hard to juggle different things, but we're definitely here for you. And we know that even every small action has a big impact, and collectively we can make a huge impact. And of course, don't forget ever to submit your project if you're going through this process here. We want to make sure that you can showcase the amazing things you did, have the potential to win prizes and be recognized. So we love that if you submit your project, that you can submit your project and reach it all the way to the end. Cool. Like I said, you have us. We're here for you. If you ever are wondering about information, definitely check FeedLoop if you're coming in through FeedLoop. If you didn't have access to FeedLoop yet, do not worry. We're going to get you access to FeedLoop so you can go in, you can watch, track, measure, record, which is a really helpful webinar if you're wondering a little bit more about what type of project you want to do or how are you going to calculate things. If you're on FeedLoop, you'll go away to the sessions bar. You can scroll through the dates there. You can click on it after this webinar is finished, and then you can go and you can check that out. You can pause and play it and go back and watch it again. We're hopeful to have Denise and Mike, who are on that call, come back and then answer more questions for us. So if you watched it and you didn't get to watch it live, there'll be more opportunities for us to talk about that too. Again, if you didn't get a chance to go to the conference, Riley did a nice overview, but you'll get a chance to go in and watch our international panel, our keynote speaker from Elizabeth, who's out in Kenya, who shared with us her learnings. She's also just 25, so she's pretty young too, and she took out her first step was to get 12 trees to go to a school and to get them to plant them, and now she plants over, I mean, I'm going to say 4,000, but it's probably a way bigger number than that, but it's still a pretty big number. But she's planting trees all the time, and that's her whole work is just revolved around planting trees. So something small can have really big impact there. Cool. So again, this is the project proposal form. It's available on our website. It'll be in the chat. If you are ready with your project idea, feel free to submit it now. We're looking through that. We'll be looking through the ideas in order to make sure that they are, feasible, that they're great ideas. Again, if you, I've already gotten some emails from students, and I love getting those emails about what their ideas are, and I'll respond back to them as soon as I can. Riley, Georgia, Freen, we're all here. So if you have an idea but you're not sure exactly how you want to do it, then do feel free to email us, and then we can offer you some advice and feedback before you put in that form. But feel free to also submit. We're looking through that, so we'll get back out in touch with you as well. If you're being so big and bold, you want to save the world, we can help you. We'll get you there, and we'll make sure that you can do it within the 6 weeks with us on this specific, very small journey. Cool, like I said, that website link, I'm pushing it all the time because there's so much information there for you. If you haven't been to the Climate Collective website and checked out the last year's resources or last year's projects or what we have up there right now, then it's definitely something you should do after this call. Feedloop, if you are on Feedloop, that's where we're also going to put a lot of resources. That's where all of these recordings will go. That's where a lot of our events and stuff are. That track, measure, record, you can watch it. If you didn't get access to Feedloop, we're getting you on there. So we can get everybody there so we can all be together on the same field, which is really great. And then of course, that additional feedback, those emails, if you need to reach out to us, those are my email and Efreen's email are right there. And at the very end of the presentation, you can see Riley's and Georgia's emails as well. And do feel free to screenshot if you'd like certain slides of this presentation. These slides will be up on our website, hence why it's there as a nice resource for you, as well available to you, so you can always go and find anything you need, but do feel free to screenshot this if you need to. Next slide. Amazing. Okay, so we've come to the end of our presentation. Something I'll also mention, which isn't necessarily in that slide, is we are preparing a toolkit for you. So we'll make sure everybody on this call, you are going to be receiving this toolkit from us. We're just finalizing some details. We want to make sure that the information there is up to date with the 2020, 2021 numbers, that it has everything you need in order to submit your project. So we're putting that together. We'll be emailing that link. It'll be a live link, so you'll be able to see it online. If there's anything that we need to add to it, we'll add to it, we'll update it, and we'll let you know if we ever add any extra resources. If there's something there that you think that we should be adding, or there's a topic that you're interested in, we can definitely put that information up there for you. So that's coming as well. So if you're wondering as you go through the project proposal, if you're wondering as you're watching this presentation, I don't know what I'm doing, this isn't enough, I don't know where those answers are, check out the toolkit when we send it to you. That is definitely coming very, very soon. And we can, there's a lot of information there for you as well. So yeah, on that note, here are those emails and our social medias where we'll again put lots of information for you, and we'll just get to answering your questions right now.
So one of the questions is there a due date for submitting the media release form?
Great question. So the media release form is very important because it not only lets us know that your parents have agreed and given your permission to be part of this program, but when we're not on webinar, which we're on webinar just for a couple weeks, we're going to be on Zoom meeting, which means there's potential for your face and to be seen. That's why it's a media release. We put all of our recordings, like I mentioned, up on our website. So that means that there's potential there. So we want to make sure that your parents know that you're here, that you are comfortable with what's going on. And if you're not comfortable showing your camera, your face, or having that opportunity, then we need to know that in advance. So the deadline for that media release is ASAP. So if you are here right now and you have not sent us or submitted your media release form, then you need to look at one of those emails right there, and you need to send us that media release form. It's very, very important. It also helps us know that you're in it, that you're here for the project, and that way we can follow up with you if we need to be. So it's a great way for us to make sure that you're with us for the journey and you're here and you're ready to get going. So thanks for the question.
Okay, and another question is, where do we find the media release form? But I think you just answered that. So
I'll just say really quickly in terms of finding the media release, it will be, if you signed up maybe through our first project launch, or if you are looking at the project proposal, there's places there for you to sign up, to actually put it in there. So it's kind of in those forums as well. So if you're going through those resources, you'll see it there. and before you can submit, you're going to need to put your media release in. So it's a great way for us to follow up, and then it's easy for you as well, because then once you do it once, you don't have to think about it ever again. And I think it'll also be, don't have it up there yet, but I can make it available on the website so you can kind of download that if you're ever struggling to find it. And then of course, feel free to email me, Efreen, Georgia, or Riley, and we can also make sure that you have that form as well.
And another question is, let's see, can they go back and edit the project proposal?
Great question. Yes, you can. So that form at the end, after you submitted your project proposal, if you've got to that stage, you'll be emailed all of your answers, or hopefully that's the way that I set it up so that way it works. And then that way you'll get in, you can edit your answers, you can change or shift your project idea. We understand that when you start a project, sometimes you don't really know where you're going until maybe you're halfway through your project. So if you are put in a project proposal and then 2 or 3 weeks from now, you realize that you don't really want that project proposal or project idea is no longer something that you're going to do, or you're going to completely shift into a completely different direction, that is perfectly okay. That happens sometimes when you're doing projects. And it did happen a lot to some of our participants last year as well. So yeah, put in your ideas there, try to get it as specific as possible, take some time to think about, brainstorm and identify your topics in your own life, what's something that you can do, put it in there. The form is editable, so you can go back in and change it up until the 26th, March 26th, when the form is due. But then again, if things are changing post 26, yeah, don't stress, that it happens, and we'll help you through there. We can help you in our troubleshooting your project. Probably that might be a great place to talk about whether or not your project shifts. But yeah, you can edit your form. Long answer for a very simple question.
So do all of the members of a team, if they're doing it in a team, have to submit the project proposal?
Great question, and it also gives me an opportunity to talk about group projects. So yes, I'm asking every person who is submitting or interested in those 20 community involvement hours who wants to do a project to submit a form there. That way we know who you are, and we can give you your 20 community involvement hours after you submit your project. So we know that you started and you're coming along with the journey with us. If you are, it's the same project idea. What I've been asking is, if you are, say, me and a friend, we're doing a project together, we might be working on Zoom or something like that in order to build our project. In the project proposal, I can put let's put the same project proposal, but I also say see a friend or see whatever. If you want to do the same one, you put your own individual one, but you could just make reference to your partner's page or your partner's sort of Google form. Then we know that you guys are working together. It's a great way for us to do it. And we know that you, Efreen, and me are both there. We're both working. Even though we're working together, we're still kind of going into the form as individuals. So that's kind of what we're asking for the form. So in short, if you're doing it as a group, each person put in their project idea, but you can add inside each little thing. You're gonna have to put a little answer. So just say, see a friend, see a friend, see a friend. If me and a friend, we're doing it together. And that way you're in there, we know you're joining with us, you'll get all the information you need, and then you can still continue your idea with your group. Now we're also asking for groups that we don't do more than 4 people, or 4 to 5, I guess. So if you were trying to keep our groups a little bit smaller, also thinking about groups, if you are within the same bubble, then that, or in the same household, great that you guys can work together. If you have a sibling in a higher grade that wants to do a project together, that's amazing. We definitely would never discourage something like that. But if you are not in the same household and not in the same bubble, then if you are doing a group project, then we do encourage you to, of course, abide by COVID regulations, COVID-19 regulations within your area, as well as potentially to meet over Zoom or whatever way that you would like to meet. So if depends on your project, if you choose to do maybe a more social media or a challenge type project, that can really good work. You can have some extra support there in a group, but it's really up to you. Yeah, we don't, as you can see from what Shirley mentioned, she was in a group. We have other group members, lots of groups projects from last year. So yeah, those are open, the max of 4 to 5. But if you are not interested in doing a group project, that's totally okay too. You can do one individually. It's great because with the way that the world is right now, then you have lots of control over your own house or life. Then you can easily take that action and submit your project individually. You do not have to be in a group, but groups are available to you as well. Thank you.
Another popular question is, in the implementing stage, how long should we be measuring our impact for? Is it for 3 weeks?
Yeah, so because we counted our 6-week project from starting from our conference and running through to the end of April. So that does mean that depending on when you start, there is a little bit of flexibility in for how long you're going to be implementing. That is true. So it might not fit exactly in type of that like a very structured way. So if you've submitted your project, say today, and you started today, then that's great. But if you take maybe a week or two, just think about your project and you start on the 26th, then you might have a little shorter amount of time, but that's totally okay too. What is important is that you start with your base calculation. And then whatever that number is at the beginning of whatever your project is, however long that you are able to complete or do your project, you calculate it at the end again. Well, again, a lot of that stuff is in the toolkit for you, so you can kind of just, again, see we have some Google Sheets as well where you can input your numbers. These are things to help you calculate and track. But as long as you kind of know in yourself in your own project, you can communicate that I did this, but then I started then and I ended here. That's for your individual project. So yeah, it might end up being a little less than say 6 weeks. It might be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks that you do your project. But again, it's about how much can you reduce in that short amount of time. And we can see when you started and we'll see when you ended. So we know kind of roughly what the timeline is.
Okay, and someone else wanted to clarify. So do we first need to collect data and then implement it and see our impact? And is there an Excel sheet for calculations like last year?
Yes, yeah. So there will, like I mentioned, there will be a calculation sheet just like last year, where that's part of the tools that we're putting together this week to get out to you. It's kind of like a two-prong sort of approach to that sort of question. It's so depending on what your project is, yeah, you definitely want to be collecting your data at the very beginning, and then also during, like there can be different ways as you're implementing it. You might be collecting data, or maybe it's just maybe these are my base numbers, and then I'm going to calculate again after I've done an action and see what those numbers have they changed, or so it kind of a little bit depends on the project. Freen, I don't know if you have anything to add specifically about that question too.
Could you repeat the question just one more time for me?
It's, do you first need to collect data and then implement?
Yeah, okay, I see where your answer was going. Okay, so technically, yes. How it works, and I'll give you an example, is if you decide your project is to reduce the amount of meat in your diet, that's a great idea. So first you would say, okay, well, I'm going to evaluate my family for 1 week to see how much meat we actually consume without implementing a project. So for 7 days, you would say, okay, on Monday, we ate 2 pounds of meat. I feel like that's a lot, but anyways, so 2 pounds of meat on Monday. And then you're like, okay, well, Tuesday we didn't have anything. Wednesday, again, we had, half a kilo of chicken. And then on Friday, again, for another meal, you had another half a kilo of beef. So you record all of those measurements, and then that's your baseline emissions. That's your before you implement your project, what you're measuring. Then the next week, for 7 days again, you will track to say, okay, well, now that we know how much meat that we actually eat, how about we only go 1 day out of the 7 days to just eat meat, and then the rest of the days you will have an alternative like a vegan or a vegetarian option. Then you're going to track the same thing, like which meals are you actually eating the vegan alternative, and then measuring how much you're eating. And then we have this really cool spreadsheet where you can input your baseline, which is the number of days that you tracked before you implemented your project. It'll ask the amount of meat that you consumed in those number of days. And then it'll give you like a number at that, and that's your baseline. And then you will calculate on the opposite, which is your after, and that's where you input your alternatives. Does that make sense? So it's like a two-pronged thing. Like
I also, yeah, that was a great explanation. And I also just want to say that once the toolkit is done, all of that information will be there for you. So if that was you, it will all be there. Don't you worry. Because especially if you're very new to the kind of climate change idea and you just really want to get started, it might be a little bit overwhelming, but all the information will be there for you. And again, we're always here. So that was a great explanation, but I just wanted to put that little reminder in there that that wasn't a one-time thing. It will all be there for you.
No, that's a good addition. Yeah, guys, do not worry at all. Like Katie and I are here if you ever have questions about calculating. Like we're just an email or a phone call away. You're always welcome to schedule time with us. And that toolkit will really help because we have step-by-step instructions on how to calculate that. And we've created a spreadsheet where it gives you a breakdown of the numbers that you need. So you know firsthand what you need to be looking for to actually calculate your emissions. So as Riley said, you will be super supported on this. And if you ever feel stressed or confused, like we're here to help because this is where we have expertise in, and we can definitely research to help you more in calculating those emissions. Any other questions?
We just have one person. Oh, never mind. Okay, another question is this a personal impact assessment or for our household?
Yeah, that's a good question. So kind of the answer to that is yes, but I'm going to explain a little bit more. So what we're asking is if you do an individual action, but sometimes that could be an assessment of your household as well. So if you're looking at your hydro bill or something like that, or and so you're going to look at that bill in order to help you understand maybe your electricity or something like that, because that's your chosen topic. You're doing home energy. So you choose home energy. So that is sort of looking at as a household sort of focused sort of project, because that's kind of what you're looking at. So maybe then you would be working with people in your household, your parents, your siblings, or whoever else you live with, to turn off more lights in your home. You can look at your hydro bill at the beginning, or kind of maybe whenever you started, and then sort of near the end, and then you can use those numbers. That's kind of a good assessment. But a lot of our projects, because we're asking them to be more individual, especially this year, considering that we're all sort of in our own little bubble, in our own little world, though you can do an individual assessment, individual project where you just look in specifically at your own action, and then that way you can have a greater impact there. So that's why I said yes to your question, because it really does depend on what you're doing. We've given you topics, we have the structure of your project, but there is a lot of flexibility, and there is, all of these tools, when you get to see the toolkit, when you see some calculations, so say also inside the toolkit, which will be available to you again very, very, very soon, so you'll be able to see everything that we're talking about. If depends on what type of car you're driving, it could have result in different GHG emissions. So you need to know if versus a Toyota versus a Lexus, there's going to be differences there. And we put that in the toolkit for you. So that type of stuff, if you're thinking about driving, transportation is a huge emitter of greenhouse gases. Also can be a simpler thing in order to calculate, because there's a lot of information there. It's an individual project, something, unless you're driving, or maybe you're driving with others or something like that, then that can be something different. But it is something that you do as an individual. So that can be a specific type of project there, but all that stuff is sort of in the toolkit for you as well. If you're thinking about doing waste or reuse, in the toolkit, we have some information about food waste. So again, you can use, as I think Afreen was saying about the measuring your meat consumption. Again, those numbers are in the toolkit, but you could also try to reduce your own food waste and that would be like a weight calculation, and then you could convert those weights into amounts of greenhouse gases it would have been emitted or something like that. So there is, again, the calculation form will help you, the toolkit will help you, and then if you have a very specific project idea or something that's a little bit more where you're like, I'm not entirely sure, it's not as simple as what I'm thinking, then do feel free to give us an email, because we can definitely help you work that idea to make sure it's very simple, and or provide you with more context, so that makes it very, very easy for you to implement and report about and then submit.
Yeah.
I don't know if Riley, Freen, or Georgia have anything to add to that as well.
Yeah, just one thing to add. So with those 4 categories, there are examples in the toolkit that you can pull from, like reducing the amount of electricity that you use, which is literally like if you're in your house and you see that light bulbs are being used in rooms that no one's actually in, it's as simple as turning them off and measuring the before and after of that effect. So it can be very, very simple projects, but then if you are deciding to go for something a little bit more complicated, like you want to organize like a cleanup, just you and your sibling, you go around your neighborhood and pick up that litter, that would be an idea that would require me or Katie just to guide you through on how you are reducing waste, because that is a bit more complex in the calculations. So we are reviewing all submissions with the project proposal to make sure that, you know, whatever idea you are proposing, you'll be able to calculate relatively easy. And there are a couple of questions. There is one question in the chat that says, where exactly are the exact numbers coming from in order to calculate the GHG? Just to really push that out there, all the numbers and the conversions will be in the toolkit. So there are like little handy tables that kind of give a breakdown of like, if you're using this light bulb, it will be this number that you need to use. And it gives you a very step-by-step guidance on how to formulate your final total. So really hopeful we can get that toolkit to you this sometime this week.
And another question we have is, maybe Katie, you know the answer to this. Does it count if I do some campaigns?
Yeah, last year we did also have, so those ones get a little bit trickier. They're maybe not as simple as, you know, I'm going to not eat meat for 6 weeks, or I'm only going to bike for something. Those calculations are very straightforward. They're very straightforward projects. If you're choosing to do something like a campaign or a social media campaign or a challenge or something a little bit bigger than that, definitely, and I would suggest also to go maybe just check out the Climate Collective /success stories. You'll see a lot of some other similar ideas where students, just like you, did projects just like that last year. So it's not impossible, but what you're calculating is a little bit different, because what you're kind of doing is you're providing information. So the information that you're providing, there's more assumptions there, because because while you're not physically reducing GHG, you're providing education and to potentially help others reduce their GHG. So yeah, for those ones, maybe if you're thinking of something more campaign related, email Afreen, Georgia, Riley, or I with your idea. You be very specific as much as possible, and let's talk, not on the call, but just one-on-one. So that way we can help you kind of narrow that theme down or your idea there, because I think it's a great idea. There was some social media campaigns last year where I think there was one that was encouraging vegan actions, or they shared vegan recipes, so they did sort of things like that, or they shared information there, and they were able to calculate in some sort of way. But definitely, if that's something that you think you want to do, that's what your interest is, email us individually and we can chat a little bit more and make sure that your project is the best that it can be.
Okay, and another question we have is a form of reusing or upcycling a product a good way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for this project?
I think that's a great one too. It kind of fits in a little bit to that campaigning as well. It's not going to be as clear cut as doing this action and then measure the GHG. Those ones are very clear cut. That's why we're suggesting them, because they're very easy for you to do, to take ownership of, and then to really calculate those numbers. Some of these ideas, they're great ideas, and they're also really, really important as well. But the way that you would calculate your GHG is just going to be a little bit different. So if this is something that you're very passionate about doing, you know you want to do upcycling, or you know you want to do try, reuse, reusing, or reduce your use of a certain item or something like that, then I suggest that you also screenshot this and or take a note of our emails, so that way we can reach out to you, or you can reach out to us about your idea, and we can help you make it in a way that you can still calculate that reduction of GHG in the way that we want to see and we want to do in our project, that's also feasible within the 6 weeks that we have. So yeah, definitely if this is something you're interested in, I think it's a really great topic. Just give us an email and then we can help you figure out the details.
Katie?
Yes.
We also have a past project completer. Would they have time to just mention their project right now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Rita, we would love to hear your project as an example. I think you might have to make her co-host though.
Find you. Rita, raise your hand so I can see you in the attendee list. Amazing. And now I'm making you a panelist. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure. I don't think I have authority to share my screen or anything like that. But I just wanted to really quickly share something that I think that might be a little bit helpful when doing your guys' projects. If you didn't attend the original event on the 10th. But what we found, which was really helpful for publicity reasons, etc., is by meeting with MPs. I know we did have a really amazing, I think, yeah, we had like a really amazing workshop on that on the 10th, if you didn't attend it, regarding that. And it definitely helped us a lot with promoting. For example, my partner and I last year, we had contacted Miss Anita Anand, and she had showed our project on her social media, and we felt like it helped a lot as well. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. And we had talked to them a little bit about what's going on in Oakville currently, like or in Halton in general, what's going on as well. So maybe that might help you figure out like an idea that you think might be a little bit weak in your town or in Halton in general. So I just wanted to quickly share that. And another thing that I felt like, which really helped us as well, was that we kind of what we did is we kind of asked around what other people feel like might be a bit of an issue that they think is relevant during this time as well. So I just wanted to mention that. And you can, and yeah, so our project was basically, what we did is that we first asked a bunch of teachers regarding like paper usage, which was last year, of course, when COVID wasn't a thing, and it didn't work out. So just keep in mind that there may be some issues when starting off, because that definitely happened with us. And then we continued and we reduced like paper usage in our school. So I just wanted to keep that out there if you might be thinking about that, or still thinking, or might be a bit not lost, but still wondering about what you want to do for your project.
Amazing. Thank you, Rita. I think that was really helpful. And like what Rita said as well, like if you go in, if you haven't seen the conference materials there's some great sessions that could also inspire you, help you decide what you would like to do in terms of your action. And like you said, like there's also ways that aren't as clear cut as, say, driving or choosing to not eat meat. And there is an opportunity to do that. So if you're thinking of something like that idea, then definitely feel free to email us, bounce your idea off of Riley, Georgia, Freen, or I. It is exactly 6 o'clock, or very close to 6. So this is coming to the end of our webinar now. Thank you all for joining and for taking the time to be with us today and asking your questions. Again, all of this information will be available to you. We can email it just like I emailed the link as well. Toolkit is coming, that will help you as well. And then next week, we'll meet again. We'll talk a little bit more about brainstorming. If you're joining us through FeedLoop, you'll definitely see all these recordings available to you up there, so you can go up and you can rewatch any of the videos that you might have missed, as well as check out the Q&A stuff there. So yes, so thank you all again for joining us today. And if you have any other further questions, take a screenshot of our emails and definitely send us an email with your ideas, and we will help you make sure it's the best project you can do.
Thanks so much, guys, for joining us. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.